There is a very specific kind of silence that happens when you finally stop trying to convince someone to value you. It arrives quietly, the moment you stop chasing someone who has taken your presence for granted. Most of the time, when we feel ignored, our instinct is to get louder. We send long text messages, we raise our voices, we demand to be seen and respected. So why is it that this abrupt, unfamiliar quiet is infinitely more disorienting to an unappreciative person than any amount of screaming or begging? Because real relational power is not found in escalating the conflict. It is found in the sudden, absolute cessation of your effort. We easily fall into the psychological trap of treating our own value like a court case that needs constant litigation. We explain, we defend, and we clarify our boundaries to people who refuse to respect them. Take a woman named Elena, a composite of a dynamic we see all the time. Whenever a friend repeatedly dismissed her time, she would spend her evening drafting long paragraphs. She wanted to explain exactly why she was hurt, hoping that if she just found the right words, they would finally understand. What she didn't realize was that those long explanations served a hidden function. Every paragraph she sent was reassurance to the other person that she was still deeply invested in their opinion. By over-communicating, you hand the other person a script to argue against. You take a firm, simple boundary and offer it up for debate. When you perform the emotional labor of managing someone else's guilt, you send a very clear signal. No matter how they treat you, they haven't actually lost access to you. To break this habit, we have to look to ancient Rome, and a philosophy built entirely on separating what we control from what we don't. In his private notebooks, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about dealing with people who operate in bad faith. He established a clear rule for himself. You have absolutely no philosophical obligation to explain your reasoning to someone who refuses to listen. The philosopher Epictetus adds another layer to this dynamic. He taught that our own choices and character belong to us, but other people's perception of our worth belongs entirely to them. It sits completely outside of our control. Your obligation as a Stoic is to align with the truth internally. You do not need to exhaust yourself trying to win the argument externally. When Elena finally applied this, her response to a friend canceling on her for the fourth time wasn't a paragraph. It was a single, emotionless sentence. No worries. And then she put her phone down. This visualization shows the exact psychological mechanics of unexplained silence. When you stop narrating your hurt, stop justifying your boundaries, and stop performing the emotional labor of managing someone else's guilt, you remove their ability to argue with you because there is nothing being offered for them to argue against. They can't argue with silence. They can only sit with it, which is deeply uncomfortable for someone used to having their behavior excused. The Stoics called this state apatheia. It's often misunderstood as apathy or coldness, but it actually describes a freedom from being driven by disordered, reactive passion. You aren't suppressing your emotions. You are simply refusing to stage your emotions as a performance for someone else's benefit. Once you stop outsourcing your emotional stability to another person, the entire dynamic of the relationship flips. People get used to controlling your emotional weather. When your anxiety and dependency disappear, it creates a psychological vacuum. The other person inevitably feels compelled to investigate why they no longer have that power over you. It's a strange quirk in the economics of human attention. People are drawn, almost involuntarily, toward individuals who no longer appear to need them. The world rarely respects what is offered unconditionally, but it will desperately chase what it suddenly senses it has lost. But there is a trap here. If you use this silence merely as a calculated strategy to provoke regret, you have failed the philosophy. If you are maintaining silence while secretly waiting with your arms crossed for an audience to applaud or apologize, you are still emotionally enslaved to their reaction. The highest state of this practice is what we call radical self-completion. This means becoming so thoroughly whole within your own inner architecture that the other person's eventual regret ceases to be relevant to your peace of mind. Your worth was never up for debate to begin with. When you accept that, the presence or absence of anyone else's validation becomes entirely obsolete.